So, because it's after Thanksgiving and we're all full of turkey and we're all relaxed a little bit, you're probably ready to answer a few questions. No, who said that? I don't blame you. I wouldn't want to be faced with these questions either. What does it mean to be sovereign? What is a sovereign? Apart from a coin of the realm. What is a sovereign? A ruler of a country, a space, a given area. King? Pretty much the same, right? Just the definition of whether or not you call a king or how that works. How do sovereigns relate to the people? What is the relationship between sovereign and people? Can be very testy. Can be very testy, can be very trying.
And he looks down on them.
He can look down on them. Indeed. Is that it?
Protection.
For protection. Now when you say a word like protection and then you associate it with things like looking down on people, you begin to see that this is a complex question. It's a very complex question. It may not have been quite so complex 2,000 years ago. There would have been an understanding that a sovereign would have been in that particular position because of a particular relationship with I'm going to use this word, a God of some kind, who would have authorized the power, who would have given the power to the sovereign, to the leader, and therefore the leader would have a responsibility to that God and to that people to provide for we call it now the commonwealth. To make sure that the people were not starving, that they were protected from enemies, that they had some degree of safety. So there's always meant to be a two-way street here. That's one thing I wanted to ask you about. I want to ask you about something else. I want to ask you about power. Tell me about power. What does that mean? Just anything. Now, power is a big, broad subject, so anything you say probably works.
What the sovereign says goes.
What the sovereign says goes. Okay, so there's a manifestation of power in that whoever is the sovereign, given the nature of now sovereignty, we're not talking about democracy, are we? Well, maybe we are. But maybe we're not. What's the other?
Authority.
Beg your pardon?
Authority.
Authority. Authority goes with
Of and over.
Of and over. Power provides, or at least demonstrates, authority of, above, and over someone else. Where does one get authority? Where does the rector of a parish get the rector's authority? From the bishop. Okay. So therefore, when the bishop laid his hands and the other presbyters came and laid their hands on me, I was given authority. Therefore, whatever I say to you, you have to believe. Because if you don't, boy, will you be in trouble. You're quaking in your boots. It's distressing to see how fearful this makes you. Power and authority and sovereigns. Now, the next set of questions. Tell me about this person, Pilate. What was he like? Good guy, bad guy? Start with the basics. Pilate, a good guy or a bad guy? He was a good guy. Right. Wrong. Pilate was not a good guy. Pilate was not a good guy. If you read the Synoptic Gospels, which are the Synoptic Gospels? You tell me which they are. Come on, this is kind of fun today. For me, it's fun. For you, I can see this as a little bit like, oh, Jim, it's cloudy, man. Give me a break. I was still recovering from Thursday, and I got up early Friday morning. Synoptic Gospels are Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Thank you. And in the Synoptic Gospels, we believe that there was a particular way of talking about Pilate which was designed to protect the Christian society or the nascent Christian community from further harassment or threat by the Romans. In the book of John, we have a different viewpoint. Pilate was not a nice person. Pilate had one primary overriding objective in this world. And what was it? Anybody want to say? Beg your pardon? Control. Making sure, but not on his own behalf. He was making absolutely certain, well, maybe to a certain extent for his own behalf, because my guess is that procurators made a little on the side, I'm guessing. But Pilate's job was to make absolutely certain that the rule of law, as it came down from his boss, would be fully implemented in the land of Israel, over which he was the procurator, or over that area of Israel that we call Israel now. He was the procurator. He would have absolutely no problem in crucifying anyone that was worthy of that particular punishment. And who would be, oh, I love doing this even though I hate it. You ready for this? Who would be worthy of crucifixion? Who would be worthy of crucifixion?
Someone who claimed he was king.
Someone who claimed he was king.
Followers
and followers thereof. Now we get to what we're talking about in John's Gospel. Finally, Jim. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, got it. Pilate is asking him right up front, are you the king of the Jews? Pilate is not asking Jesus because Pilate is a nice guy. Pilate is asking Jesus because if Jesus declares himself to be the king of the Jews, what is going to happen to Jesus? He's going to be crucified. And why do you suppose that would be? Because he's not, quote, in an alliance or designated in that position by the Romans. The Romans actually were quite happy to have the local leaders in control, as long as they understood which side of the bread was toasted. Oh, both sides are toasted, usually. As long as they understood the nature of the relationship between the outliers and Rome. And Pilate is asking Jesus a very direct question. Are you the king of the Jews? What does Jesus respond? Do you ask this on your own? Or did others tell you about me? Who would have said, you know what, he thinks he's the king? Who would have said that? Who would have said that about Jesus? The leadership of the ruling temple elite in Jerusalem would have said that about Jesus. This guy thinks he's God. He thinks he is the king. And when Jesus says, are you asking me this out of your own, off your own bat? Or are you hearing other people? That's a very, very interesting response. It's not the response of an individual who feels a power differential between this person who has life and death over him and himself. Let's talk about power differentials. There's a word we don't get up in the morning and go, well, I'm wondering how my power differentials are going to work out for me today. Occasionally I get up and think that. I may be the only one. Power differentials. Who has the power in the relationship? Who has the power in the relationship? I'm going to ask you, I'll give you a couple examples. Newly ordained priest, head of the altar guild. Who has the power? Head of the altar guild. small, family-sized parish, and the patriarch of the parish, who has the power? Patriarch of the parish. Woo, that's interesting. Husband. Wife. The wisdom in this congregation is great. Because not a male in this place opens his mouth. Power differentials. Power differentials are about which way the energy flows in a relationship. And who has the greater strength in a relationship. And in healthy relationships, what is it about the power differential in healthy relationships, which is healthy? What makes a healthy relationship healthy in terms of power differentials? It's shared. Generally speaking, if you put the two needles of power together in this relationship, they're kind of going to do this, aren't they? And there are going to be some times when one will be substantially higher than the other. A couple of weeks ago when I was sick like dog, my wife had power to look after me. And there are times when I get to look after her. In every relationship, sometimes one must put a foot down in order to be stable so that the other partner can step forward in the relationship or for the relationship, through the relationship. Healthy dynamics, power differentials. Jesus here is demonstrating that his power, he understands something about power here. Jesus does not admit to someone that will kill him if he does. He does not admit here that he is the king. Pilate says, well, you are a king. And Jesus says, you know, you say that I'm a king. I didn't say that. You did. But for this I was born. And for this I came into the world to testify to the truth. And the truth that I want to talk about today is that in this world, you have far more power than you think. I believe that you have far more power than you think. Ultimately, Jesus was killed in the most horrific manner possible. It took great creativity to kill Jesus in the way that he was killed, because it took advantage of every weakening agent that could be applied to a human being. Every torture, every suffering, every pain, emotional and physical, that could be given to an individual, forced upon an individual, imposed upon an individual, is in crucifixion. Jesus recognized that he did not have power to stop that from happening. Well, yeah, he probably did. But there's something about this power that he wanted us to understand, I believe. And that is that I have no power over you that you do not give me. I have no authority over you that you do not give me. The church ordains me. But that ordination is empty unless we have a healthy relationship. I have seen written beautiful treatises on the nature of the church and who owns the church. And every time I read something like this, I think about that little childhood game. Here is the church. Here is the steeple. Open the doors. Well, that's not much of a church, is it? We cannot stop all the things that happen to us in the world, but we have the power to determine how we will respond to it. This is a huge, huge, huge point. It's huge because the people who have power and would use it and abuse it rely on the fact that you do not understand the nature of power within yourself. Rome had one emperor. One emperor over millions of people. How is it that millions of people would quake in fear of the word of one person? And how is it that the voice of one person, was able to turn the world upside down and provide means by which all of us can live out our lives in healthy relationships with each other and with God? 2,000 years ago, one voice sang a song to us that we are all still singing in our own way, in our own voice. A significant piece of that is the understanding that in order to be healthy, you must recognize in yourself the image of God, the source of ultimate power in this world. The image of God in you.